Hello, everyone, and welcome to our ninth event in the Night Light Poetry Series. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm delighted to be here with you tonight on this beautiful evening in late May, playing host to an excellent group of readers and poets. Before we get started, I just want to say a quick word about this series, Nightlight. In case you haven't listened in before, Nightlight is a reading and conversation series featuring poets and writers, both new and established, in about a monthly reading that is hosted virtually on the odd Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Often it's the third Thursday of the month, but as tonight and our previous reading in May show, that's not always the case. We're a little bit flexible. But at each of our events, we always feature a group of invited readers who share a selection of their work with us. So some poems, we've had fiction writers, we've had playwrights. It's been a really exciting time to hear live work in real time. Having slots for readers every month means we're always looking for folks who would be willing to share their work with us at this month's event, future events, etc. So if you'd be interested in participating, please let us know. We are on social media on Twitter at Nightlight Poems, all one word, or on Instagram at night_light_poems_ because underscores help get available usernames on Instagram. You can also feel free to DM or email me directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky, TOMSNARSKY, most places like Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, etc. Or you can just email me on tomsnarsky@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from you. I've been able to get to know some folks who are reading tonight through just kind of reaching out and getting in touch. And sometimes it really makes for a lovely way to get connected with poets who are doing exciting things. Also, feel free if you have any folks who like are friends or you would want to read with somebody else. We've had some really lovely readings, including our most recent reading earlier in May, which was just like a group of friends who had a writing group for many years and wanted to share their work with us. So that's always really cool when that happens. So without any further ado, let's get started with this particular event, which I'm very excited about. I'm beyond thrilled to introduce our very first reader of the evening, who is joining us all the way from Singapore, and that is Allison Thung. Allison Thung is a Singaporean poet and project manager. She is the author of Reacquaint, which is out now with Kith Books, and Things I Can Only Say in Poems About/To an Unspecified You, which is forthcoming with Hem Press in 2025. Her poetry has been published in Anomaly, Heavy Feather Review, Cease Cows, The Daily Drunk, and elsewhere, and nominated for Best of the Net, Best Microfiction, and Best Small Fictions. Allison reads poetry for Anomaly, and we're so glad, Allison, that you're starting the day with us today. Welcome, and I'm excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thanks so much, Tom. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm dialing in from Singapore. It's 9 a.m. here in Singapore on Friday morning. So really happy to be starting the day with this and with all of you. I'm going to be reading a couple of poems from Reacquaint, as Tom mentioned. So that's my debut poetry chapbook with Kith Books. Came out in February. And I think the last time that I was reading was actually the launch for this. So I might be a little rusty. But yeah, it's a book that follows the journey of someone whose life has been touched by chronic illness. And I hope you like what I have prepared for you. So the first poem is called Chronic is a Word Felt, Not Spelled. Nobody should have a favorite seat in the A&E, a favorite spot on their arm for drawing blood. I once asked my doctor how long I would be following up with his clinic. He said lifelong, and I wondered if he meant his life or mine. In only 65% of my fantasies am I absurdly attractive. In all 100% of my fantasies, I am completely recovered. Sometimes I get so tired, I feel the beginnings of a poem slide off the sides of my brain and fall out of my mouth in a disappointing non sequitur. On particularly clumsy days, I can hear my prednisolone whisper from the floor. What if you just stopped? What if you just stopped taking all your medications? When people describe something as something else on steroids, I laugh. I am me on steroids. Near a hospital at night, I crave a ham sandwich. I pretend I don't know why, but I do. So that is that. The next one I'm going to read is one with a very long and specific title. As you can tell, I either love a one-word title or like 20 words in one. So this one is, which of course makes me a hypocrite for only falling in love with people unbothered by clothing tags. As a child buying new clothes, I had to be told repeatedly to note just the fit and material when asked if I was comfortable. Because otherwise, and really even then, I jumped to no, I don't want it. Because XL 100% polyester was digging into my back and the security tag into my side. And no amount of exasperated assurances that they can and will be removed would be enough for me. But the truth was that I just didn't trust my judgment. Because what if the dress still sucked, even without the tags? Then I'd never hear the end of how it was a complete waste of time and money, and nobody needs that. So it just seemed easier to fixate on the ephemeral scratchiness and say no altogether. I mean, for God's sake, I was 6 and 44.95 could probably buy a house. And I mean, for God's sake, I am 30. And what if I looked past the surface irritants and took a leap? And it turned out to be a complete waste of time, honey. So I'm not 30, I'm 32. It's really written a while ago. Another one with a very long specific title. It's called Self-Portrait as Bottled Sand Art, made in a mall craft store in the early 2000s. Glass bottle shaped like house cat, but anthropomorphized. Of thousands manufactured, but alone in its vicinity. Fogging where heat of palm collides with still cool of mall central air conditioning. Manufacturing anomaly masquerading as design. Potential embodied awaits life as a calico or tabby. But nary 4 in the afternoon, and all sense feline associated or otherwise already run low. Yet resolve to exist reigns, and so blue, so green, so yellow, pink, purple, orange, red. Until a cat is a cat is a cat, made from unrealistic and odd and not enough. Thank you so much for the comments. So this one is bicycle. Exactly when did I get so wary, so overly vigilant I catastrophized 7 different ways before attempting anything even slightly risky? She must at least be in hibernation. That incarnation of me who at 10 decided the best way to learn how to ride a bicycle was to take off from the top of a hill with nothing but momentum on my side, throwing all caution to the classmate who had offered to hold my bicycle upright, but whose generosity was ultimately no match for my heft. I sure had life all figured out then, certain that triumph lived in eliminating all options but succeed and die trying. 2 lifetimes later, I still recall with absolute clarity the exhilaration that coursed through my entire body as my thick brown hair whipped back from my sweaty face. The way the wind swallowed my well-meaning classmates' words of assurance and maybe admonishment. And how my sunflower yellow bicycle flipped right over at the bottom of the hill, sending me crashing to the ground. But only because I had slammed too hard on the brakes to stem the velocity I had gained too quickly, and certainly not before I learned how to maneuver that 2-wheeled menace to ride a bicycle. As I washed a massive oozing scrape on my right knee with murky seawater, bicycle unscathed and leaning against a palm tree, I knew that that was the way I would hope to live forever, with abandon and without regrets. It's one of my favorite memories. You can't learn to ride a bike without falling, at least not me. So this one is called Diagnosis. The doctor confirms it is run of the mill. The fix, a single injection, and to move as far away as I can. Since no follow-up is necessary, I leave that very night. At the apartment, I pack a bag of only essentials. Everything else I own, I burn, shred, or dump. In the airport, I revel in a cacophony of flight announcements and fellow red-eyed travelers rushing to their flights. When an open-mouth cough sounds in the cabin, I frown, but do not flinch. In my new kitchen, I enjoy a quick lunch of sashimi salad. As I dine by the window, sunlight bathes my face and arms. Post-meal, I remember to take a colorful assortment of macarons. As I do the dishes, summer breeze lifts my hair of consistent length. Inspiration strikes, and I stop to note lines in my leather-bound notebook. When I settle on my couch, I do not write this poem. This one is Road Trip. There is an inimitable kind of invincible you are at 19, making promises you cannot keep to friends you will not keep. Because hubris is not deception, and it's not a lie if you believe it. And at 19, there is no reason to disbelieve the plans you make with Sarah and Ed over McDonald's hash browns to road trip across California right after graduation, even though you paid with loose change in currency from a country 8,610 miles away. While Ed nods off in his seat from yet-diagnosed narcolepsy, Sarah tells you how the best breakfast potatoes are always from diners attached to gas stations in the middle of nowhere, and you nod sagely as though you are in on the secret. For the rest of college, hash browns and gas stations alternate as shorthand for your grand plan, symbols of an unbreakable promise. But after 19 comes 20, and after 20, 21. And one day you are suddenly a 30-year-old liar. Sarah is a text message from 6 years ago you never responded to. And Ed is Edmund or maybe Edward again. And though you will meet other people, go other places, and have other adventures, every so often you will think about the time you never pulled up to the gas station diner combination at which Sarah had the best breakfast potatoes of her life, only to discover the entire place had long been abandoned for ruin. And the only lights you thought you saw, incandescent from Sarah's memories and your imagination. I did the research for that. So Singapore is exactly 8,610 miles away from California, if Google is to be trusted. So this one is called Autumn. Look at me, recalling the romance out of everything. Your eyes, your hair, your last name, and career inclinations. I will always be less, I don't remember his name, but I remember that day. And more, yesterday, I found him on LinkedIn. He's married now, works in IT. Don't get me wrong, most of me is grateful my need to know is almost always satiated. But a tiny part that yearns for mystery will always remain. For surely nothing quite so human as unanswered questions and lack of closure come to life in unreliable narration and confusing dreams. Though perhaps this is a natural defense mechanism. My body and mind come to consensus that the only way I will move forward is if I can get a clear look backward, and so doing their best to keep me advancing always. After all, if I remembered only the colliding cold of autumn on my arms and warmth of your palm against my back, I would be lost forever to the past. So this one is Scar. Instead of speaking your mind late that afternoon, you offer up pointless pleasantries in exchange for his polite platitudes. Just as he ignores how the heels of your brogues catch uneven cobblestone as you approach, you ignore the way his voice catches as you leave. Because it is summer, you don't notice how late it is until youths in clubwear fill your still bright carriage, and one in a soft leather jacket jostles the Tesco roses, wilting in your arms. Instinctively, you pull them closer to you, as if they were meant for better than 2 days in the stained coffee mug and one at the bottom of the bin, ripping holes in the lining. Grief distracts, so when you exit the dark station, you miss a step, promptly slicing open the papery skin of your malleolus. And as you note the same ruby that marks your bouquet now trickles down your ankle, you wonder if this day will leave you with a scar or just a poem. And the last one is a poem called When We Die. So it's actually a visual poem, kind of looks like an error. But it's got a pretty strong narrative in there, so I'm happy to read it, and it's going to be my last one. So when we die, where do they go when we die? Those shorthands we blazed into being. Words, acronyms, gestures, touches, meaningless blown off our searing core. He says they die with us, dissipate or not. I think they lodge into that yawning chasm that is the night sky, become nebula awaiting that next great turbulence to live again. As diffuse non sequiturs or conversations so weighty, they threaten to collapse in on themselves. That shared vernacular exists on. In old or new incarnations, uncertain, but ever transcending us. And that's it. Thank you all so much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Allison, for starting us off with this beautiful tapestry of memory and sense and feeling. And that was, again, Allison Thung, Thung, who you can find on social media at Poetry by Allison, Allison with two L's and one S. Allison's on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at that handle. And check out Allison's debut poetry chapbook, which is called Reacquaint, that you just heard some poems from. It's available from Kith Books in both print and digital forms. So you can go to Kith Books, Kith books.com to find both the print and digital versions of Reacquaint. And also you can keep up with all of Allison's work on her website at Allison Thung, ALLISONTHUNG.com. What a beautiful way to start us off again. Thank you so much, Allison. And I'm really excited to keep going in this evening's reading order by introducing our second reader of the night in Edward Anki. And Edward Anki's poetry has appeared in Jake, Bombfire, Rejection Letters, love D.T. Robbins and Rejection Letters, Roi Fainéant Press, gotta put the French on for Roi Fainéant Press, and others. His first full-length poetry collection, Screw Factory, was released in 2022 by Anxiety Press, a wonderful imprint that has published Tyler Dempsey and other wonderful folks who I love. A former stand-up comic, bartender, and agonized telemarketer, Edward is currently engaged in part-time studies to become a psychotherapist. And Edward, thank you for finding some time to join us tonight. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to read. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to read a few poems from Screw Factory, and I brought along a few others as well. I'm going to start with the opening poem from the collection. This is a poem based on my childhood experiences of watching wrestling. Age 8. One of the bad guys became a good guy and teamed up with a good guy to fight two bad guys. And the two good guys beat the two bad guys, and that was very exciting. After the match, the good guy, formerly a bad guy, sucker punched his teammate, and the two bad guys they had beaten returned to the wrestling ring and helped the good guy, now once again a bad guy, stomp and kick the good guy, and that was very sad. Two other good guys, formerly bad guys, saw what was happening and jumped into the action and overpowered all three bad guys and helped the fallen good guy to his feet. Lunch is ready, my mother called. I walked into the dining room, prepared for the world. This is another childhood piece. Heartache. Hearing the flub of my heart during an echocardiogram, I'm reminded of Albert, a boy in my second grade class, Japanese, I believe, who was teased by yours truly, picking up a penny in the schoolyard one day. Well, let me tell you, Albert gave it to me good that day. He began screaming and crying and telling me about how each penny went toward making $1 and about how each dollar meant food and shelter. He really told me off good and proper that sunny day in the second grade. I think I even apologized. I felt so bad. Not all of the poems in Screw Factory are autobiographical, but the ones that are tend to follow a bit of a narrative arc in the sense that they're kind of chronological. So I'll read you one that jumps ahead a few years to teenagehood. 17. I needed change for the streetcar. so I walked into the corner convenience store and asked the owner for change. But the prick said, no, you have to buy something. So drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning, a couple of weeks later, I threw a salad bowl through his storefront window. When my mother asked about the missing salad bowl, I shrugged and said, I rarely eat salad. I'm here in Toronto, and the public transit situation here is a bit of a nightmare. It's very overcrowded. It's a quite unhappy environment, and this is a poem that kind of touches on that situation. Southbound. Observing human beings on the subway at 8 o'clock on a weekday morning, it becomes easy to believe hell has arrived. Sour mouths, downcast eyes, fidgety fingers searching for distraction in iPhones or iPads or discarded newspapers or anything at all. Suddenly, an old woman, quite obviously a vagabond, unzips her pants, pulls her faded purple underwear down to her ankles, and assuming a full squat, begins to piss a splashing stream onto the train floor. I watch from a safe distance as those in her immediate vicinity become very alert, very fast, clearing space for the apparent lunatic. Finally finished, the old woman pulls up her pants and then, as if nothing had happened, exits at the next stop. The train moves forward and the buzzing of voices begins. What a nut! What a crazy old bitch! Holy shit! What the hell? I simply watch the piss, slowly crawling south. Some of the poems that I write are a little bit more imagery based. I'm going to read one or two of those. Imprinted. It's something about time, the torturous divine, this image of tiny lizards scurrying ancient stone walls, with which I remained this morning upon waking. Something about time, and the forgotten dead, and cemeteries in Italy and Portugal and Spain. It's something about toppled sandcastles, children at play, ghostly schoolyards. It's something about wearied fishermen docking battered boats. It's about the ebb and the flow and thin crust pizza dough. It's about so much and so little, and the haunted house down by the pier. It's about sad grandma underwear and sickened beige curtains and slivers of late afternoon light. Possibilities. Yes, it's the moon, or the memory of the moon, or the memory of a neon sign, or the memory of dialing a number you shouldn't be dialing, drunk and alone, and wondering what you're doing. Maybe it's the memory of a laundromat near the edge of Sunday doom, and cancer and dollar stores, and cheap Christmas decorations, and emotions forced from the bowels of a fireplace. Maybe it's silk slippers and candlelit lust. Maybe it's the whirling, dizzying days of meaningless lightning. This is a piece I wrote about a career transition that I underwent a few years ago. I've since transitioned careers again, but freedom. Aside from the dullness of the work, it was the expectation of ambition which was most painful. To be satisfied with my low-rung coordinator position, such disgrace. In the bars in which I had slogged for nearly 2 decades prior to that first office job, nobody cared about me, nobody cared about my ambition or lack thereof. Nobody cared. There's not a lot of happy poems in Screw Factory. This is one that maybe borders on happy. Good times. Watching a televised fight while my girlfriend reads a magazine in bed on a Saturday evening. I'm happy. Well, as happy as I've been for some time, which is a long time, if we're going to be frank, which seems a reasonable thing to be. If you're going to be anything at all between the cradle and the grave, or the urn, or however your remains remain after your memories of Saturday evenings and girlfriends reading magazines in bed and two men fighting for something nearly nameable dissolve into big city dust. Several of the poems in Screw Factory touch on the kind of the disconnection of modern life. And I'll close with a couple of those. In closing, the old man at the supermarket wearing khaki shorts and nearly knee-high socks and a freshly pressed polo shirt walks alongside his daughter, I think, and his two grandchildren, I'm guessing, sucking lollipops on a Saturday evening. I observe the old man at the supermarket. Imagine him a once dutiful banker. Imagine him a voter in every municipal, provincial, and national election. Imagine him comfortably wed to his euchre-obsessed wife. Imagine he imagined more. I'll close with this piece. Remote life. The game shows, the talk shows, the sitcoms, the reality shows. The sluggish eyes of apparent lovers on nightmarishly calm Sunday evenings. To think, decades before these were children stamping their feet into puddles with joyous abandon. Now one of them reaches out, changes the channel. The coffins yawn in anticipation. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you for those incredible poems. I was like, one of the books I take off the shelf a lot is Michel Houellebecq's Art of Struggle, Le Son du Combat. And I'm like right there in the Subway Observer poem, the poem of modern disconnection. That was really, really beautiful. And that was Edward Anki, who you can find on Twitter at eanki2, Eanki2, and on Instagram at Eddie Anki, Eddieanki. And the Screw Factory, or just Screw Factory, is out from Anxiety Press at the link that I will put in the Zoom chat for everybody. And you can check it out at athinsliceofanxiety.com, because Anxiety Press is doing some really, really beautiful things, including publishing Edward's work. I strongly encourage you to check it out. And it's just a really, really beautiful imprint that Cody's putting together. So shout out to all of the beautiful things happening there. And thank you so much, Edward. As you move into the next reader in our reading order, as my cat, I don't know if he's audible on Zoom or not, but he's coming over and very excited to hear a returner to our reading series. I was saying to folks before we started the recording, before we were Nightlight, we were a reading series called Performance Anxiety, and we've had a few folks who are here tonight who read as part of that series back, and we're very, very excited to have them back. And one of those readers is W.V. Sutra. W.V. Sutra is a poet of fortune and convenience. His debut collection, Skeuomorphia, I believe, is in production with White Donkey Publishing, due for release in the very, very near future. Thanks for coming back, Sutra. We're excited to hear you read. Take it away.
Peace and greetings, everybody. It's good to be back with Tom and the gang. I'll get started right away. I noticed, though, that I seem to have picked a lot of dead people poems. That's okay. You know, sometimes when somebody goes, it focuses me, and I'm able to, you know, get a good poem out of it. Because when people are alive, that's enough, you know. Anyway, it's about a friend of mine who was I used to play music with, a real, real good piano player. Now passed from this world, alas, but it's called Oh Bergantz. Mississippi is the river that bore the jazz like Moses in his basket, riding the hippo, coyly seeking the Pharaoh daughter. But what about the grubbers who rode the rafts, haggling out those catfish guts around their little fires, some dry cornmeal, a chunk of bacon, and maybe a jug of sweet nunsuch? Such a comfort. You can feel the same strong current, and you know that old catfish has gone into deep water. They say that Memphis is the meanest city in the world, a place of bullshitters, of pseudomorphs, of jive streets. You might clean a lot of plates at BB King's, but the money is the same. Hippie-looking blues dudes in their jeans play that same old hand-me-down set on Beale Street. Sometimes a babe finds a basket all his own river, his own pretty face, smiling at the woman who scoops him up tenderly. You might think a piano guy takes with one hand and gives with the other, but really, all take covers, all give, because the man needs to get paid, stride after stride. Striding hands grow stiff and cold, arms grow heavy, music is over. Who will hold Bull Bellington now that he is old, his tummy full of blood, far from his foundling river? Next poem, also about someone who died, an artist, very good artist, very famous artist. This one is called Higher Stakes. I knew him at the end as his body failed, saw the purple welts in his belly fat that he flushed with a brine-soaked brush. Self-portrait, he said in a ruptured voice, preening on his head a pelt of fur slabbed with a pomade product. A gallows is an armature, he used to say, lesser than a cross for sure, hanging out his work in the atelier to cure. As the devil loads his brush, he daubed the soul of surface, such a wanton act, so real in time, on the painted faces caked with lime. The sky at eve was orange burnt as the punters sought to hunt Hesperides allowed to play in deep and deadly purpose. Phosphorescence more in store for Beelzebub, his brilliant aura, scorn caresses sought for blows, hopeful of a deep unlocking. Dying body is exact in brutality of fact. His final work, a painted mask, and he called it Higher Stakes. All right, this is a more lighthearted poem. It's in the mode of Cavafy and guys like that, but it's called City States. It was published in Hoogly Review, issue 2, I believe. So. City States. I march in the ranks of the otherwise urged to seek the abiding shadow of virtue, perhaps on an isle of pale rocks and blue tones, or in Levantine City smelling of diesel, setting aside the deep shame of ordure, unable to walk away from the brothels. I balk at the looming sense of cliche, but awfully chic to be out on the town. My suit is bemoiled from nocturnal exertions, lost my pince-nez in a horrible tavern. Street louts are trouble, but such a good deal. Visiting bagnios, staining my linen, my knee-length knickers in need of the laundress. Always wear taffeta next to your skin, my fuddled daddy was fond of saying. The peace-dyed version is de rigueur, enfolding delights in store for the evening. Port Said is a dusty town where the old Nile Delta lies worn and sad. A rubble of gods on every corner, rifled tombs, a good source of mumia. Somewhat too warm is Escandaria for a fellow like me in the pull of deep gravity. Metropole formerly known as Kashiromi, despoiled of cops to say nothing of orthodox. How these people do miss the point, which is ever to seek and to always be sought. Oh, to put myself in the hands of the barber and the young coffee runner who swings his tray, living in paradise, coins in my pocket. No need to strive at the office today. Plenty of time for the painless needle. Never a question of eating heavy. A soul is a thing to be set at ease, so chain me to pleasure and show me your virtues. Foolscap and ink for to dash off a note to a fortunate body, a happy recruit. Let's see. This next poem was also published in Hoogly Review issue 3 just came out. It's called Dinner in Jerusalem. I scavenge the world, and if you choose to come along, I would welcome the company. When we place our bets, the where becomes important. Let the catastrophes of fortune play themselves out discreetly, leaving us free to parse the debris. The moon mocked me this morning. Still in the sky she was as I drove to work, or to dialysis, or to a bail hearing. Poor old Luna sticks to her motions and means not a thing to me or anyone. I stopped for gas and still she lurked. Downgrade Pluto has its 5 little moons, and here we are stuck with this old thing. My sense of humor is in wax these days. Once on pilgrimage, our pastor paused to have his shoes brushed by a bootblack, a man grown too old seemingly for boot work, and the pastor found fault with his brushings and shied at him childlike. I was just a boy and found it all funny. Priests and boots and holy sites. I sat at dinner with my father, and from the dining room of the King David Hotel, we saw soldiers fully armed, patrolling the rooftops of Golden Jerusalem. We had completed our pilgrimage. Our printed indulgences lay safe in our bags, embellished with fine calligraphy, and together we flew home over the red desert. And this, another dead guy poem. Okay. This was recently printed in Ephemeral. It's hot off the press. You like new stuff, Tom, so here we go. This poem is called Demigod. Claudius, we hear you are of the immortals, smelling the sky on you, smelling the high on you, on tiptoe motorbike with plastic drum kit and sexy Nikon, loving the girls of Paris, having to go through the brow of the boulevard in a busted biscuit tin. What news from the front, old friend? What news from the ash heap? See where Mediterranean boys sharpen their gut rippers dark at night. The way you conjured a tale of mutton heads, a rumor of bloody minds, the politics of a pancreas clogged with fat, feeling somehow good, somehow apposite. What to do with your spastic creatures, your palatine, your English bulldog, wishing all that were mine. Thus we danced and sang that song, but now the patronized hold forth and get the love with none to spare. Good Claudius, in parting, pastiche in memoriam, del fuego sensorium, what has become of our old scoutmaster, who left us to drown on a dangerous day? And I'll try to squeeze in one more. I write a lot of poems about capitalism, and this is one. It's called Buyer's Market. I call myself the Lion Man, who sits awake all night, who smokes and drinks and thinks and stalks through theme parks searching for spectacle. I could kill and pass for bold in my authentic animal self, ignoring all the evidence of a life enslaved by fashion, forgetting I know better, and am driven to extremes that answer only poorly. My values are commodities. The flag is now my underwear. Rich goods are on display for sale. The secret self becomes a cultural product. Kindly man, my therapist, who simply smiles and reassures me that my lover, Mistress Unicorn, will carry on without me, as it were. I am giddy with my new life as an image, with the tools taken out of my hands, looming magnificent as an icon, more real than real, larger than life, just like the president. Sublime, my dears, is the ego. We must not shy away. As an object choice, I enjoy the distress I bring, but better than that is blowing up all the old ways. Hearing echoes, flapping in the mind like dying birds, such a racket they do make in their throes. As I breathe my last, I will tell myself, I was just here for the cockfight. Will the day never come? Must I leave my poor, sad memory in the hands of such docents, such keepers of the flame, seeking the sleep that none can understand? Where is the crisis that brings awareness and lifts despair? We say the dead are honored by the process, if by nothing else. The manual says it must be so, and that it is their proper function. Oh God, let buyers be found for my poor project. I am that new product, you fools, worth every penny, the finest money can buy. Thanks, everybody. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sutra. That was a beautiful romp from just every inch of, meter and sense and rhythm. It was just so beautiful to hear those dead person poems, new shit capitalism poems. Thank you for bringing a cornucopia of wonderful things to our reading tonight. And that again was WV Sutra, who you can find on Twitter at W_V_Sutra, SUTRA. And Sutra's poem Atomic Skies will appear in Drike 2, or Drike, I think it's number 98, which is DREICH. So keep an ear to the ground to all of Sutra's happenings, and also keep an eye out for Skeuomorphia, which again is coming out from White Donkey Publishing very soon. So as my cat continues to yell at me, I will begrudgingly move into the back half of our reading order, which is always a little bit sad because it brings with it, the envoy of the end of the reading. But we couldn't ask for a better back half of the order, and I'm excited to lead that back half off with Tommy Wyatt Blake. Tommy Wyatt Blake, whose pronouns are he, they, lives with his boyfriend and 3 fiendishly goofy cats. Cat solidarity from the 2 who are right near me and the more that will, I'm sure, join later. His poetry can be found in Fatal Flaw, Many Worlds, Mayday, Passengers Press, Fifth Wheel Press, and others. They are the author of Really Afraid from Carencia Press, which is forthcoming, So Whose Courage from Bullshit Lit in 2023, and others. Thank you, Tommy, for being with us. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share. All you. Oh, for whatever reason, I'm not sure I can hear you. Can anyone else hear Tommy? Oh, I see some head shaking. Let's see if we can.
Mike, I'm not sure if that helps. Turned it on, turned it
Yes.
back
No.
off. Okay. No.
Now I can hear you. All
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you. Sorry, I just saw somebody in the comments say that they couldn't. But maybe that was delayed. Thank you. Thanks for having me. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with one of the poems I had published in Many Worlds. It was in the first issue, and it's also one of the poems in Really Afraid, which is one of my forthcoming titles. And this poem's titled, Do You Wish to Know What You're Looking For? The screen cloaks you with night because you looked at it at just the right time. The one in the dark and damp basement, the one on sleep mode, the one adjacent to the lamp that shakes with a whole note jingle in middle C. Someone else's home, huh? The kaleidoscope green, pixels slowly shifting to black in word art with words only known to AI. With your eyes following it, stimming for extreme situations, think of a dream, think of a really good one, aquatic ambience, static shimmies in, dialed to the sounds of plundering for night sky stars and the unnaturally dyed water level from Super Mario 64, to gray flashing with a bolt of blue on reflective swishy pants, TikTok's shrink wrapping nostalgia with liminal spaces. Do this when you need, and you'll wonder why you're always crawling back to the water instead of your mother's arms. And the next one is forthcoming in a different title. It's called Ditch Laps. It's also with Querencia Press. And the next 3 are actually from that same book. So this one's titled, I Really Wish I Could Cry Right Now. Somewhere there are negatives of me possessed by sleep paralysis, my legs bent over the edge of the bed, star-pocked mattress exposed by flash. I'm dreaming about falling, and I don't know why. I'm dreaming to pass the time. I'm dreaming in endless cyan crashed skies, how there's nothing I can do, but see how each image triples with apparitions, how my body is thrice posed, now with angelic proportions. So many legs, it looks I've learned how to run. And the next one in this book that I'm reading is titled Do Not Resuscitate. It's forthcoming in Bullshit Lit. Crawling out of a coffin, bare-knuckled, haze of insulation pink, body pockmarked with wounds, tripping trypophobia, blood fluxing from jellied and friable tissue, materials mucked up for architectural disaster. How it's a design flaw. The graveyard misting with sawdust as I ply my hands through the flesh slab of dirt. What if we consider the cemetery to be a rigged claw machine instead? How everything is supposed to be glazed over in feral and pungent yellow light. How it gives tangible static as a migraine, ribbed with chrome cold. The illusion is how it makes me feel alive when I'm chosen with shing certainty by someone else's hand. And I just have to ask, why do I keep coming back? And then the last one in this set from Ditch Lapse is titled Gestures Broadly at Everything. So blank-stricken, so bored now, absorbed by glitzing aura, in quartz pink pinching my skin so I don't blink, all in the consequence of need to exist on the other end, to be more ghost than person, paralysis kissed and ethereal. Let me be nowhere, touched by sleep. Let me close my eyes just this once. And the next one was published by Fatal Flaw. It's titled Tommy's Room as a TikTok Live. TikTok Live as a simulated wasteland of longing, the fake background breaking to spirals of woozy purplish blue. I turn over in my sleep, pixels of exposed breast crashing into frame as the rasp in your voice whines to a scratchy minor C, asking, can I live rent-free in your mind? The audio distortion is dreamified as arms suffused with screen-bright warmth, their tactile static shaking me into the oblivion of my phone, where light pulls an astral ghost out of me. Your comments read, is that your bed? Are you all alone in that room? Can I see you soon? See more of you? You're my top viewer, my only viewer, really, and you want me to be perfect for you, even as I short circuit out of vision. You speak again. I do now, if I don't already. My body stirruped and bare splayed in a way you could digitally erase the crinkly purple top sheet and anything else on me, anything you want. And then the last one I'm going to read is one that I wrote recently at a workshop. I've been writing a lot this year, but this is one of the ones I've written, so I don't know, just wanted to put this one in here. It kind of felt related to the others. And this one's titled, The Worst Thing You Say Is How Others Hurt You is a Personal Shortcoming. You're sorry too much when you're sad fluxed, dusk sweating with the sunroof rolled back, the Honda scarred by a chasm of low pulse sky, when you feel your lips solarized stark white by the body of sun, how it shimmers a starched ghost haze to choke on. Parts of you breathe in that weird warm, to where saying sorry with the same conviction scrunches the whole of your throat. Thank you. Sorry if that was like really quick.
No apology necessary at all. Thank you, Tommy, for sharing those incredible poems. That again was Tommy Wyatt Blake, who you can find on social media at Tommy Wyatt Blake, TommyWyattBlake on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Tommy has 2 books forthcoming from Querencia Press in September 2024, including Really Afraid, which you heard a little bit from. And yeah, it's just so beautiful to hear that kind of work, and to hear also the just incredible, I'm just like I always am sort of floored by this point in the in the reading and running out of words to say. But also I want to personally thank both Tommy and Sutra for sharing new shit, which I think before we started the recording, informed everybody here that we have a particular penchant for new work, fresh off the presses, ready for workshop. Like it's so beautiful to hear that work and to hear it happening in real time with us. And Basil's here ready to share his enthusiasm as well. So we are entering our last two readers of the evening, which is again a little bit bittersweet, but also extremely exciting because I'm so glad to be welcoming back a returner to performance anxiety / nightlight in Jill Bergantz. And Jill Bergantz is a queer poet and journalist living on unceded Miwok territory in rural Northern California's Sierra Nevada mountains. This month, she celebrated her birthday surrounded by some of the things she writes about, a destruction derby on the closing day of the county fair, held in honor of Mark Twain's short story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. There was mud and war. The drivers had a pit crew and the volunteer fire department was on standby. There was mulligan round. It was a celebration of raucous consent. Her pushcart nominated work has appeared in Barrow Street, Opossum, Tupelo Press, the DeYoung Museum in newsprint and elsewhere. She's tuning up a manuscript and her life. Jill, thank you for being here. All you. I'm excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everyone. This is all new shit. All of it, brand new. So, let us start with an incomplete list of all the places I have felt safe. A grove of aspens, gilt and quaking. The lower deck of the Bay Bridge, before it was retrofitted. Burlington Northern, the busiest shipping yard in America, holding the soft hand of a cider-drunk, book-smart woman. In front of Ocean Park, any number. At the opera, with anyone. In Beaver Creek, cracking a snow-melt cold beer, shoulders reddening. At the symphony, with anyone. At the ballet, with anyone. At a Major League Baseball game, with anyone sitting behind a pillar, all these tickets cheap and terrible, as were at least half the dates. The garage. It's 2 a.m. I'm bending to the open dryer to pull each most worn item from its maw. This is how I always pack, because every time I leave this place since, it feels like an evacuation. 3 years ago, last month, he learned where I live because I held a garage sale. He arrived with a 6-pack of IPAs and stayed for the duration, watching me. Sell my yellow bookshelves, 7 strings of Italian wedding lights I'd removed from liquid amber trees the night before, barter a red canoe for a couple $100, and 2 buckets of scavenged fox skulls to an old punk turned Otis elevator technician I'd spent a passionate night with when we were young. Add that to the list. Places I have felt safe. My yellow bookshelves and the interior of every book that rested upon them. The yard once lit by globes of blown glass hanging in branches of liquid amber. A red canoe and all the water. The field. My youth. And thank you. More new shit. All new shit. I don't know what book taught all of y'all to read, but at my little school, Mark Twain Elementary, we learned to read from We Feed a Deer, a Phonetic Reader by Anne Hughes. And this is a poem after that book, if any of you read it. We're all a little beyond it now, but it's good to go back sometimes. The Man I Love is the first book I ever learned to read. He feeds a deer, so calm, so competent, such compliments upon me he lavishes, the apples of my cheeks redden delicious, I ripen. Oh, sunlight of true kindness, I never knew you but in the mist, but with my sisters I feel free. We work under quilts 200 years old. You hold my hoof in lifts in Philadelphia, in fear, in courts, dates, you stock steady, me still bleeding, I remind you. One night a man tried to kill me. You feed a deer. Deer, you feed me salmon, just the way I like it. Coffee, silky, you buy just for me. giving me in bed. Dear, I was afraid. Dear, I come to you, Jane. Doe eyes and wobbly legs, you feed a deer. You bring me manna from heaven. You are manna from heaven. Dear, I would not know it had I not spent winters, tick bone, hungry gut. All there was bitter. Up till you held your safe palm, open flat, trusting wide to me. Dear, I'll feed you. You are cold. Dear, let me warm you. I've made your bed. Dear, hush. Dear, wipe your tears. Dear, what a beautiful pelt. Dear, what a beautiful pelt. And then we had Easter this year. And I've been spending all of my holidays very quiet and very alone with my dog. And then there was a visitor. A poem for the Easter bird. I don't think you have to be thankful, is what you were saying, when the biblically accurate angel wheeled in, prima facie Finch, on this bright morning. Front door cracked inches for the dog, and the dog was still. While she winged through the house in terror, she didn't know she was already safe. I caught her in my hand. Breast red, feather blooded, from where she plucked a single sharp thorn from his crown. I think I know this from a sermon I attended at Chartres when it was years ago, when my French was better. I told you while I held her. You said, I believe you. I believe you. I believe you, you said. I mean, obviously all of these are a little bit connected, right? Sometimes a poem doesn't have a title yet when it's brand new, but it can have an epigraph. This is an epigraph that well, it's Mother Mary Oliver, so how can you not love it? Joy is not made to be a crumb. Laying on the floor with an oscillating fan moving slowly over you. It's hot. It's June. It's Illinois. It's 5 p.m. Your favorite show. A rerun. You've just turned on the TV. You've just come home from work. Your grandmother's quilt. Your first car. Your first kiss. She framed it. The sublime game. Matted all the cards that won. 9-patch quilt under glass. Wine-stained and homemade. A deck of 3x5s we added to for years. She was transcendental as Scottish moors. She was terrifying as dinner, pushing a plate towards me, saying always, I love you, eat this, so you don't die, ever. And I'm really glad Allison started us off with poems with long titles, because these last two poems have very long titles. Another Abecedarian poem containing the speaker and her long lines and her vowels. A flag in the wind, ripped from the staff, ripped from the staff, ripped from the pole, stolen, ripped from the staff, mounted higher, stolen. Every drive to a courthouse, every drive to a courtroom, every drive to a doctor, every drive to a city over a bridge. I have wondered about this July. Our lives entwined, but unlike the snakes eating their own tails, by which I mean to say every other month since the October when every other month that ends in Y. Thank you all for coming with me. To close, one more with a very long title. And I love research. Apparently, I've been doing a lot of legal research. Couplets from the speaker of the poem on the order under California Penal Code 136.2. 3 years on, dog. You are sun gold on the rouged couch. We are a spade pair with a frayed heart. Say it with me. All dressed up, and one day we will. Releash me and come for an unguarded walk. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, for those incredible poems. I was listening to your deer poem, and I've been carrying around the complete Elizabeth Bishop for the last couple of days, and just thinking about the moose and like the deer, the moose. It's just a whole cosmology, and that everything you just heard was Jill Bergantz, who you can find on social media on Twitter at Jill Bergantz, JILLBERGANTZ. Same on Instagram, same on Blue Sky, but with the .bsky.social that you have. You can keep an eye on Jill's work at jillbergantz.com, because Jill's website is always being updated with the amazing things that Jill is working on. Jill also would like to shout out, because every reading I'm like, hey, what would you all like to shout out, readers? And Jill would like to give that space to The Cabin, which is a nonprofit organization in Idaho dedicated entirely to literary and arts education. They're at thecabinidaho.org. Their literary events are in person and online, among so many other things. They work with youth in schools and people who are incarcerated. They're also fighting book bans in a state that needs our help. So you can go to thecabinidaho.com, sign up for their email list, keep a finger on the pulse, and don't sleep on Boise's literary scene, the same Boise of a bunch of incredible poets that are working through Boise State and all the other places. I'm thinking of Diane Raptosh's American Amnesiac, all these like lovely things that have come out of Boise. So thank you, Jill, so much for being our penultimate reader tonight. I'm transformed by this dear poem, and in that transformation, I am also tasked with introducing our last reader, who we are very, very privileged and excited to have tonight, in Josh Davis. So Josh is the author of the recently re-released Reversal Spells in Blue and Black from Seven Kitchens Press, and with Allison Blevins of Fiery Poppies Bruising Their Own Throats from Glasslyre Press. Josh, thank you so much for taking the leap and joining us tonight on Nightlight. I'm really just very glad you're here, and passing the mic to you, and so glad that you're here to close us out tonight. Take it away.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Tom, and thank you so much, everybody else. It's a scary honor to be new, and it's a scary honor to go last. I'd like to begin with with one of Allison's and my collaborative pieces from our first chapbook from Seven Kitchens, which was called Chorus for the Kill. And this doesn't quite hit the new shit threshold, but it comes close, because I don't think I've ever read this one out loud before. So this is called To My Love in Two Voices. My broken, my wing splint, my arrow in the breast. I wish it were easy to say I want a jukebox that plays only one song. My split face, half-breed, birthed of two homes, you come and go in night bright darkness. I tremble from the want. You are the sadness I never hoped to scratch. You are crushed soup, stone, milk, the ravine beneath my boots. We are floating endless circle breath, sound, and a heavy shrapnel retreat. Tell me you never whispered blue and plunging into a broiling wind. Now and wait. What terrible things to do, to die, to live, to do either without you. I am water wrung from cotton. And now I want to make a jump to Allison's and my more recent collaborative chapbook, which is called, as you said, Fiery Poppies Bruising Their Own Throats. And this one turns on a kind of a reimagining of some famous Denise Levertov lines. Reunion after Denise Levertov. Let's pretend we've come back to the castle that burned long ago. Let's pretend the ruins are ours. Let's pretend we were children here once. Damn. The slice of the sea, the grind of the wind, the bleak cry of bells, like a shudder of leaves, like a cascade of noon, or one feather that dithers in circles. Let's pretend two children could love each other and the air from every mouth, stinging in every language, worshiping the pull of water from dirt, the deluge of water returning again and again might shroud them in the warm breath of home. Let's pretend this is all we remember. Let's pretend we never belonged. And now I will allow Allison to make an exit stage left, and I'll just be me, or some version of me anyway. So I'll read some poems from Reversal Spells in blue and black. This is called Chapel. Ask my mother quietly if she'll paint your ceiling. She'll slide free of her chalk blue house shoes, ankles naked, wounded as she climbs each rung, clutching the brushes. Careful not to startle her. Sometimes when we die, we lose our hunger for hearing. Whispers, nicknames turn gray. Each of her orchid brushstrokes traces my wrist veins. Swallows, star flares, peacock fans, if these aren't what you want, say so. Beg her to paint us, her and me, as we lived once, lives ago, just two witches of Endor. This is a bit more narrative than it is lyric, a bit more story to hang on to here. This is called Gazes, and it borrows a rhyme scheme from Lord Byron, who you may or may not know walked with a clubfoot, and who on his carriage crest, because he was a Ponzi boy who could ride around in carriages, used a mermaid. You fastened my life jacket with thick knots. Bob steered shirtless, his hand gleamed on the deck. I leaned over the bow, the river caught reflections of my grin and threw them back. The Polaroid spat out its woozy shots, and every time I heard that shutter click, I raised my head, half dizzy in the daze, and tried to watch the camera catch the day. Noonie clutched a beer can, traced the lid. When I stared overboard, she said, "None here. No mermaids live in that filth. Sorry, kid." The brown-green water lurched. I didn't care whether she believed or not. I did. Our river, sunstruck, fevered in the glare of midday June. You slept and I looked down through muddied skylights. I still wish I had drowned. Now, because we've had a kind of a motif with the long titles and the long and specific numbers, I'll throw a coin in the well. This is called case number B9406017. In a season of bindweed and fire came the day when the plain van appeared, when the screen door whined, scraping, when the father turned, handcuffed. That house sat mute, hollowed of rustlings. And now I'm going to close out with a poem that does indeed hit the new shit threshold. And we've already had one shout out to Elizabeth Bishop, so this will be our second. It's called Separation Tune. He can't want you anymore. Drain the glass, excessive pour. Sketch a nightmare, blot the war. Skies won't waver, check the lore. Take your heartbreak out on tour. No one wants you anymore. Drink like Bishop, wake up sore. Promise that you'll stop at 4. Pause the Technicolor gore. Engineered for slamming doors. Who could love you anymore? Soundtracked by this drippy score. Go on, darling. Scratch the core. Strike one match across the floor. Then another, flames galore. Love won't love you anymore. Thank you so much, all of you. Appreciate you.
Wow, Josh, thank you for ending us on that incredible note, and for, any bishop shout out I am here for times a million. That again was Josh Davis, who you can find on the socials at, where am I? I don't know what tab I'm on. He is on, I don't know. I don't think that I have social medias for Josh, but you will want to keep track of what Josh is doing. But Josh is also a senior poetry editor for Harbor Review, in addition to all the other beautiful things that Josh read for us tonight. And Josh offers mentoring and online workshops through the Poetry Barn. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for the Reversal Spells in Blue and Black from Seven Kitchens Press, and for Fiery Poppies Bruising Their Own Throats from Glass Lyre Press. Oh, mon Dieu. We have been all over the place this evening. I have felt feelings. I have been, in the elusive fields of so many poets so close to my heart. So thank you all, brilliant readers, for bringing me here and bringing us here, bringing our listeners here. It's hard to conclude any reading like this, but I just want to do that by thanking all of our readers and thanking our listeners for giving this hour and change of their lives over to poetry. I do hope, if you're listening with a sheaf of new poems close at hand, you might consider dropping us a line. We're again on Nightlight at Nightlight Poems on Twitter, with underscores in between on Instagram. You can email me, tomsnarski@gmail.com, or just get in touch on any of the platforms that you might know me through. We would love to hear you at a future event. We have lineups that are filling up for our events on June 20th, on July 18th, on August 15th, and beyond. We have a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. And I'm just gonna, sit here reeling in all the feelings that our brilliant readers have brought us tonight. And I am going to continue our Nightlight tradition. We always close with a poem. I'm really tempted to end with an Elizabeth Bishop poem, but I don't have one handy. So I'm going to read one from one of my favorite books. This is Ben Mirov's book, Ghost Machine. And I'm going to read you, to close, a poem from Ghost Machine called Sleepless Night Ghost. And I feel really glad that I'm ending on this, because we've had Jill's incredible Deer poem. So this poem again is Sleepless Night Ghost. I go to a shop where they sell machines that keep you up. People flow in and out of the infrastructure like haywire birds. It doesn't matter what I say to the recording device. Nothing can save the face blowing across the face. Someone catches me and shoves enough wire through my dream. Someone getting out of bed to the sound of someone showering. Someone eating pieces in the dark. It scares me through another night with no ideas. I need artificial clouds to give. If we are ever in a car together, I hope light pours through the windshield. I plan to be another language in the body of a deer.